Yeah, good morning. Really delighted to have a chance to be with you all this morning. And so I wanted to spend a little time today talking about different stages of meditation, and then getting some sense for how they fit together. And this is a topic we come back to a lot, like what is meditation, different approaches to meditation and types and so forth. But there's a very classic progression that I wanted to introduce to help you to get some better sense for that. And that traditionally is called the four close placements of mindfulness, or four mindfulness exercises, if you want. But and that is mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of the mind, and then mindfulness of what's called Dharma in the Buddhist tradition. Dharma has a very broad meaning. Has a broad meaning, and it has a slightly narrower meaning. But Dharma literally means something like to hold, and it's almost like a container. And the meaning of Dharma is almost like all phenomena, everything, that everything that we engage with, inanimate objects, animate objects, abstract concepts, and so forth, they're all concepts, they're all ideas. And every object of knowledge is like a little container in our mind. Like we group everything into containers: friends, enemies, strangers, good, bad, working, non-working. So the way we know the world is through engaging with these objects, all phenomena we can consider Dharma. But Dharma also can mean spiritual instructions that help create a container in our mind for our experiences, and a way of understanding the world. So I'm not going to, that's a big subject, but these four close placements of mindfulness: body, feeling, mind, and then Dharma. So the body, the breathing meditation that everybody has heard about through meditation, it's a subset of meditation on the body. The breath is the sort of somewhat more moving aspect of the body. But as we meditate on our breathing, gradually what happens is the mind settles, and gradually you get some experience of peace, and hopefully over time you get some experience of peace and relaxation. And that feeling of peace and relaxation can sort of kindle and warm and increase and pervade the body and become even an experience of bliss. And so the practice of meditation on the body will naturally lead to an experience of a blissful sensation that's basically just a resting state of happiness and well-being that comes out of the body. When your body is healthy and feeling good, there's a natural feeling of well-being that comes out, a sort of blissfulness. And you've felt versions of that. You take a nice shower, you go get a massage, or it's just a nice day, or whatever, you exercise and you're feeling good afterwards. There's some bodily feeling of pleasure. And that's not too different from this experience of bliss and pleasure that can come from meditation, but it's something we can gradually shift our attention to. But then even beneath that, any feelings of bliss, good feelings or bad feelings, pleasure, pain, and so forth, they're all just part of the mind. And it's all like, if you go to an art gallery, say, and there's some pretty pictures there, and there's some terrifying pictures there, and there's some abstract pictures. They're all just art, right? You can group it all into art. Oh, art is very, it's quite varied. It's the same when we're in our life, looking at pleasant people, unpleasant people, good things, bad things. It's all just visual information. And all that visual information is, in fact, just one of our senses, also mixed together with our internal thought. They're all just mind. They're all just information. It's just this massive flow of information. Our minds are letting in this massive flow of information. So beginning to shift attention into the mind itself is a natural progression um, from this practice of mindfulness. And then the fourth of these practices, close placement of mindfulness on Dharma or phenomena, can in a sense mean that our mind is encompassing everything, all phenomena that we encounter, and that our mind can be at peace with all phenomena, that in a sense, no matter what happens, our mind is at rest and peace and making sense of the world. But it also means that we are holding with mindfulness, which is like memory, an awareness of spiritual instructions that we've received that are helpful for us. So this is a huge, broad, fourfold division of all these kinds of meditation. But why does everybody talk about breathing meditation all the time? It's because it's at this root of this early close placement of mindfulness on the body. And why would you start with meditation on the body? A couple of characteristics. One, if you're qualified to show up for a meditation class, you've got a body and you're breathing. So it's a great equalizer. Two is that the experience of the body is necessarily in the present moment, and that is as opposed to all of the thinking that we normally do. That's remembering about the future, remembering the past, and all of our planning minds. We tend to get very caught up in those. So breathing meditation is, as people like to say, it's grounding you in the present, but also meditation on the body itself. When we're meditating on the body, we're meditating on the body in the body. We're meditating on the body, feeling the body physically. Now, you can look at your body and you've got a visual picture of your body, right? And so when we look at our body actually feels like it's outside. Like we're here on the inside of the eyes and the body is here and I can see it. And there's like a bit of a gap. There's a separation between me and my body. But of course, there's no separation between you and your body, right? When you feel the body, like if you just, feel right now where, your hands, your back, neck, there is no gap. There's no separation between what you're feeling, between the mind that's feeling it and what you're feeling. So the sense awareness, the nerve endings in your body are feeling the body. And it's very immediate. It's very basic. It's like an amoeba that is touching something. It has no visual, no vision, but it's touching. It's our most basic sense is our tactile awareness. And because we're so visual, such visual creatures, we have such a strong sense that we're here and everything else is there. This gap, like this separation that naturally occurs with our vision. And so we ignore, the fact that everything you see, is in your mind. The goodness of it is in your mind. The badness of it is in your mind. The familiarity of it is in your mind. Your whole visual world is also in your mind, but doesn't feel like it. Feels like it's outside. So it doesn't feel like any of it is subjective. It just feels like we're knowing the objective truth. We're walking around experiencing the objective truth, which is not what we're doing. We're going around we're going around in a story of our own creation to some great degree, or a story of our society's creation. So it's not but we need to begin to recognize the subjectivity of our experience and close the gap between our mind and its object. So that's a bit of a preliminary explanation. So what we can do now is spend a bit of time in meditation, and I'll emphasize this meditation on the body, in the body. Feeling our own experience of the body. And then as usual, near the end of the meditation, we'll shift to feeling a sense of gratitude for the community that supports us and surrounds us. Okay, so we can begin as usual, closing our eyes. We can find a comfortable position. Helpful to sit with our back straight to reduce the risk of falling asleep, but relaxed. And just take a deep breath in and out. And then another breath, inviting ourselves to relax. And then another breath, and just asking ourselves what is important now. So now we can spend about 10 minutes in silence, just focusing on the body in the body, feeling the tactile experience of the body, and especially the breath. then we can ask ourselves, how have we been so lucky as to find this body, this life as a human being? Where does our body come from? We can reflect on the kindness of our parents, ancestors, those who enable us to find food, anyone or anything else that triggers a sense of gratitude. We can be creative. What are you grateful for? When we find a feeling of gratitude, we hold the feeling of gratitude as our object of meditation. If we lose it, we ask ourselves again, what are we grateful for? And then for the last minute or so, we can reflect because we've received so much benefit throughout our life. We can develop an intention to repay the kindness of others, including by working on our own mind, improving our own wisdom, compassion, inner peace. And then we can open our eyes and arise from our meditation. So, in in general, in these modern times, we have more or less infinite access to variety. Even if you're quite poor, generally you've got access to TV and this and that. Um, in America, at least, most homeless people have smartphones also. So, not to I don't know if that comment comes across as flippant, so please forgive me if it does. But generally, we have a lot of access to variety and novelty. But still, there are some things that we just like. You may have favorite food. Uh, um, my wife just can't get enough of kimchi and rice and ramen. I basically can't, as far as I can tell, I am not able to ever get sick of eating burritos. So we've got these favorite foods. You might have favorite walks, favorite music, that you come back to again and again. So as much as we like variety, as much as we like, are, comfortable with variety, sometimes you find something really good and you just like to come back to it again and again and again. And we want to find meditations that for us are like that we're just happy to come back to them again and again. Like they're a go-to meditation, like a go-to food. You get hungry, you just, I order a burrito. Or if you feel a little bit agitated, you want to find a meditation that like works for you, that makes yourself feel better, feel at peace, and you can learn from. And um, this meditation on the body is interesting. Like, why is it so perennially popular and recommended, and so forth? One reason is that it just has this aspect of being physical. It's becoming aware of your own body, and there's something that happens no matter what you're meditating on, where you let go of or relax some worries or thoughts or distractions, and then there's also some natural experience of peace that can arise, like perhaps a sense of warmth in your body, or coolness, or whatever it is. But there can be a bodily sensation. So there's a sense in which no matter what you meditate on, the, you'll feel it in your body if you're connecting with something, right? This feeling of peace, that when you walk away from the meditation, you kind of feel some peace elsewhere. You can feel some peace in your body. And what's interesting is if you walk away from a meditation and you feel a sense of peace, even as you walk or go about other activities, that can still be with you. You can be having a conversation, you can be doing any activity you want, but if there's a peaceful feeling that's lingering, then you're carrying that with a non-conscious energy, right? Um, Often when we're having a conversation, we have to use all of our conscious power. If you're thinking about something hard, you use your conscious power to do that. But our body is this whole big reservoir of non-conscious, experience. I'm not thinking about breathing now while I'm talking to you, but sort of non-consciously I'm doing it. I'm not even thinking about holding my posture. I'm just non-consciously, lifting my arms up. And so our body is generally something that's very unconscious to us. It just does its thing. But if you can get that body doing the peaceful thing, then you're basically retraining that non-conscious mind to be in a state of peace that you can carry with you as you're having your conversations or eating your meal, or going about your daily activities. And so there's something quite nice about the body, because even when you leave meditation, it's still there with you, right? Um, and there's an analogy I've been thinking about a bunch, where this is an analogy that came from Buddha, from the original sutras, where when he's describing what it's like to move from this early stage of meditation, where you're focusing just on your breath, to generating a sense of bliss. There's two words that are used: joy, piti, and bliss, or sukha. So joy and bliss. When you're generating that experience of bliss and joy in your body, and then it becomes sort of all-consuming, and that becomes your main object of focus, is that experience of joy and peace in the body. He used an interesting analogy. It's a little bit of a old-fashioned analogy, but you can build a mental picture. So the analogy is, if you went to a bathhouse, if you had money to pay to go to a bathhouse, there's a bathhouse attendant, and they would have a soap powder, and it's a powdered soap, but they would mix that soap powder with water. And they're sort of taking that soap powder and kneading it with water, and a little bit more water, and a little bit more kneading, and just a little bit more water, and a little bit more kneading. And then gradually the soap and the water become mixed, and it becomes like a you know like a cream or a gel or whatever, putty or whatever the form, like the thoroughly mixed, this experience of mixing. And so in the analogy, he said, what we're doing when we're meditating on the body, we're also mixing the body with a feeling of comfort. You're mixing that body with a feeling of well-being. You're mixing different parts of the body, maybe stiff, a little bit tense, you're unaware of them, and with your mind, with your attention, the attention is the moving part of your mind. You're sort of feeling this part of the body, and how's that feeling, and how's this part feeling, and you're sort of mixing that body with a feeling of comfort, like kneading this soap powder together with water. And the water is the joy or the bliss there. The body is the sort of dry soap powder there, but you're sort of bringing them together. And that what the water does, it causes that soap powder to stick together, right? Um, Water causes dry, caked dirt to clump together as one. Water on a leaf will cause the leaf to stick to something, right? So the analogy, there's an analogy of feeling and water. Feelings often likened to water, that it has this cohesive property. And how do you know? Because if there's something where people generate good feelings from it, people will clump to that. Like a good restaurant and people really like the food, everybody's going to clump to that restaurant, right? Good movie, you get millions of people clumping to that movie. Something that generates good feelings, you'll find people aggregating there and it sticks in the mind and so forth. So we're quite lucky because the resting state of the body is an experience of well-being. It sort of skews in the positive direction. The resting state of the body is not a feeling of pain, not usually a feeling of pain and so forth. If we can find a place of peace in our mind, if we can connect to our body and relax and disconnect from worries and other concerns and so forth, there's like a background noise, like a background static in our body that we can begin to touch, which is a feeling of well-being. And that's this analogy of mixing the bath powder with water, beginning to activate that feeling. So if you think about any part of your body, and you just bring, like my mind's on my right shoulder now for no good reason. You bring your mind to that, and then what is the feeling? And in that part of your body, and can you feel it as a pleasant feeling? Is there a pleasant feeling? Now, if you have a lot of bodily pain, maybe that's not easily accessible, but this can come through, and I'd love to know your experience. And obviously, if you want to share with me afterwards, help enrich my own understanding of what we can experience. But that's part of what we're doing with the bodily meditation, basically tapping into that background noise of well-being and that experience of well-being. And that's how there can be some progression. There's a lot that we can learn from our body. So moving from the body itself to this experience of well-being, joy, bliss, to this experience of the mind itself, where from one point of view, whether there's joy or pain or discomfort, it's all just the flow of mind. It's all just information. And so this natural progression can arise. It's a little bit like if you, there's this famous cooking book that I've not read, but it's also a TV show. What is it? Salt, Fat, Heat, Acid, something like that. Salt, fat, heat, acid. I don't know. So it's a woman who became a consummate chef and just student of food. And in her mind, at the end of the day, it all boils down to four things: salt, fat, heat, acid, right? Like and then she's just playing with those combinations. And we're doing something similar. At the end of the day, okay, there's all this life experience, but at the end of the day, it's all just information. It's all just the mind. Like it's all, and there's actually a state of peace that you can arrive at when you have this perspective that equalizes all of these things. And that's this third stage of meditation, meditating mindfulness on the mind. And the fourth stage, mindfulness of Dharma, um, includes all of these wisdoms. For example, when I asked this question, okay, so where did this body come from? How did we get so lucky as to have this human body that can have a feeling of well-being? But even this question, how did we get so lucky to have this human body? Well, who's the we that has a body, right? Like, is there a we separate from the body? Every cell in our body, the DNA is 100% not ours. You are 100% made up of not you. You are 100% somebody else's DNA. Mostly your parents, also viral DNA, bacterial DNA. There's a lot of DNA, and absolutely none of it is yours. I don't know when you came into existence. I'm copyright 1976, but prior to that moment, there was no me, right? So how did this me end up getting a body? So as you can see, there's all these there's some deeper insights and questions that can be unlocked just by contemplating the body itself. So we're at time, but these are some thoughts I wanted to share. We'll end with a brief reflection on the meditation, and then I'm happy to stay afterwards and chat if anyone wants to share their experiences. So we'll take just a minute here to reflect. Even in this brief time, this 45 minutes of our life, our mind has changed a little bit. We have gone down different mental paths than we usually go down, perhaps. And what we're exploring with these ideas, it's not just our own individual learning. We are a product of our society. And as we're exploring new ideas, ways of thinking, being, we are changing society locally first, but we are walking these mental pathways that others can walk in the future. We are changing our mind, and by changing our mind, we're changing the mind. Whoever's mind might need to walk down these paths in future. Okay, so thank you very much.